There is a place on earth where people were not destroyed by an enemy, but by their own hands. There was no imperial invasion, no great war, no foreign conquest. Easter Island, a single isolated land in the middle of the vast ocean, thousands of kilometers from anywhere. And upon it, silent gazes, massive stone faces, the Moai statues. These statues are not just stone. They are a warning. Easter Island, known to its people as Rapa Nui, is one of the most isolated places on Earth. It is not simply remote, it is almost unreachable. The nearest inhabited land lies approximately 3,700 kilometers away. For centuries, this meant no help could arrive, and no easy escape was possible. Whoever lived here lived entirely with the consequences of their own choices. Around the 12th century, the first people reached this island sailing from Polynesia in wooden, wind-powered canoes. This was no accident. These were not primitive wanderers. They were master navigators. They read the stars. They understood the winds. They memorized ocean currents as if the sea itself were a map. They did not stumble upon Rapa Nui. They chose it, and what they found must have felt like a miracle. The island they arrived on looked nothing like the barren land we see today. Rapa Nui was once green. Dense forests covered the hills. Massive palm trees stretched toward the sky. The soil was fertile. Rainfall was reliable. Birds filled the air. Fish filled the surrounding waters. Food was abundant. Survival was not a daily struggle. There was no famine, no scarcity, no immediate danger. The people lived in balance with nature. They built homes from wood. They carved canoes from trees. They fished the ocean and cultivated the land. Small communities formed, bound by tradition and cooperation. Everything worked because everything was in harmony. This island gave them shelter. It gave them food. It gave them stability. Most importantly, it gave them a future. But history has shown us something again and again. The most dangerous mistakes are often made when people believe they have everything. Rapa Nui would not be an exception. For the people of Rapa Nui, the Moai statues were not art. They were ancestors. According to belief, the spirits of dead chiefs and leaders lived within these massive stone figures, watching over the island and protecting their people. The larger the Moai, the stronger the protection, the greater the power, the higher the status. At first, the statues were modest in size, simple, focused on spiritual meaning. But slowly, something changed. Comparison began. Our ancestors are stronger than yours. Our clan is more important. Our spirits deserve to be seen. What started as belief turned quietly into competition. A race. Who could build a bigger Moai? Who could raise a taller one? Who could make theirs visible from the farthest distance? This was no longer just faith. It became prestige, a public display of power. The statues grew larger and larger. Some reached over 10 meters in height. Many weighed dozens of tons. They were carved using stone tools slowly shaped from volcanic rock. Each statue took months, sometimes years, to complete. But carving was not the hardest part. Transport was. The Moai had to be moved from quarries across kilometers of land to the coast. To do this, the people used wooden rollers, poles, ropes, and sheer human force. Hundreds worked together to move a single statue. When a Moai finally reached its platform, it was a moment of celebration, a symbol of victory, honor for the clan, proof of superiority. And here, a dangerous shift occurred. No one asked anymore, "Do we need this?" Instead, they asked, "Can we make it bigger?" Each new statue had to outdo the last. and that meant cutting down more trees, more wood for rollers, more wood for ropes, more wood for tools. But no one stopped to think about what would happen when the trees were gone, because the Moai were believed to be protection itself. The people thought the statues made them strong, that more Moai meant more safety. History teaches us something brutal. Often, the things we believe are saving us are the very things leading us toward collapse. The Moai were the pride of Rapa Nui, but silently they were also laying the foundation of its destruction. The rise of the Moai came at a cost no one wanted to see. To carve, move, and raise the statues, the people of Rapa Nui needed wood, a lot of it. Trees were cut down to make rollers, to build ropes, to construct tools, to transport the Moai across the island. At first, the forests seemed endless, so the cutting continued, one tree at a time, then dozens, then hundreds. Years passed, generations changed, but the Moai grew larger and the forests grew thinner. Slowly, the landscape began to change. The great palm trees disappeared. Birds lost their nesting grounds. The soil, once protected by roots, began to wash away with the rain. Harvests declined. Fishing became harder. Without large trees, the people could no longer build strong ocean-going canoes. The sea, once a source of abundance, became unreachable. The island was shrinking, not in size, but in possibility. And then came a moment no one recorded, but everyone must have felt. The last tree was cut down. There were no cheers, no celebration, no warning bell, just silence. With no trees left, there was no way to escape the island, no way to fish far from shore, no way to rebuild what had been lost. The balance between people and nature collapsed. Food shortages turned into hunger. Hunger turned into desperation. Old traditions no longer worked. Old beliefs no longer protected them. And for the first time, the people of Rapa Nui faced a terrifying truth. The statues they had built to protect them could not save them. They had traded their future for symbols of power, and by the time they realized it, there was no way back. Because once the last tree falls, a civilization loses more than wood. It loses choice. Style. Part 4. Chaos in Paradise. After the last tree was cut, Easter Island was no longer the same place. Nature had fallen silent, but the people had not. As food became scarce, society began to change. Communities that once cooperated turned into rivals. Tension grew between clans. Trust slowly disappeared. Hunger does more than weaken the body. It breaks the mind. People stopped thinking about the future. They focused only on survival, on the next meal, on the next day. This was the moment when the foundations of society began to collapse. Laws no longer mattered. Leaders lost their authority. Traditions lost their meaning. And the Moai statues, once sacred symbols of protection, were no longer seen as guardians. They became targets. If the ancestors were protecting us, people asked, why are we starving? That question was dangerous because its answer destroyed belief. One by one, the Moai statues were toppled, deliberately, in anger, in despair. This was not just the fall of stone, it was the collapse of an entire belief system. Competition for food turned into violence. Raids became common. Revenge replaced cooperation. Some accounts even suggest that cannibalism emerged during this period. Whether myth or reality, one truth remains. This society had lost itself. A people who once lived in balance were now willing to do anything to survive. Easter Island was not conquered by a foreign enemy, but it was already destroyed from within. And history shows us This is the most dangerous stage, because when a civilization loses its values, there is nothing left to protect it. Paradise had quietly turned into chaos. Easter Island was not destroyed by an enemy. It was destroyed by its own choices. The Moai still stand in silence, not as monuments of greatness, but as a warning. Because civilizations don't fall overnight, they fade when balance is lost.